September 25th, 2020. That was the exact day that I gave myself the 20-year goal to become the world's best motivational speaker. The reason why I did that was because I just read Bo Eason's book, There's No Plan B for Your A Game, in which he discussed doing exactly that, setting himself a 20-year goal and not having a backup plan on purpose and fully committing to it. That way you're going to become the best at whatever it is you do because you're so committed to it and you're doing it for such a long amount of time that it's impossible for you to not become the best. So after reading that, of course, I was really inspired. I'm like, hey, I want to do that too. And, I've always been a storyteller and, I've written books and given speeches and everything. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. So I literally came up with a 20-year plan. What I did is, first of all, I went and took sheets of paper, kind of like this, different, but anyway, basic principle, and stuck them up on the wall, all 20 of them, linked by other small pieces of paper, going up and down, kind of to signify the journey of there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, and then there was the sheet at the beginning of all the things, all the skills I would need to develop in order to become the world's best motivational speaker. And then at the end, that list again, but this time completed and written like in the past tense, like I've done this, as if it's already happened. And then there would be the date at the top of every sheet of paper and a little information like that. And whenever I'd accomplish something in that given year, I'd go ahead and write it on that sheet of paper and the date. Also, at the end of that completely, I created a vision board with a bunch of images visually representing the journey, the life, the experiences of being the world's best motivational speaker and everything. And around that, a bunch of quotes of one sentence quotes just to illustrate, to remind myself, like, these are statements that represent who I am as the world's best motivational speaker. And then later on, I kind of added some statements like in big above it to motivate myself. And the thing is, like, back then, I was living in a studio apartment, so it was right on the wall across from my bed. So whenever I woke up in the morning, I'd see it. It was also above my TV, so whenever I'd watch TV, I'd see it. Because I didn't have a table because it was such a small studio, I'd sit in my chair while watching TV a lot of the time. So when I ate, I also saw it. So I saw it a lot of the day. So yeah, that was kind of how I set everything up. And in order to really, because I was fully committed, I'm like, I am going to make this happen no matter what. I went all out. So, I forget who it was, but that theory of it takes 10,000 hours to become world class at something. I'm like, all right, let's do that. But instead of 10,000 hours, let's do 20,000 hours. So let's do the math. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do 4 hours per day, 5 days per week, 50 weeks per year, which is a total of 1,000 hours per year. Multiply that by 20,000 hours. There is no way that I can practice and implement the skill of motivational speaking, of communication, of storytelling for 20,000 hours and not become the best. That was the logic, which I still believe to this day. But we'll get to that. So I did that for multiple months. Every single morning when I woke up, I would go to the timeline that I wrote. I would read everything on that first sheet of paper, all the things I would need to master. I would look at all the different years, visualize myself going through that process, get to the end, read once again all the skills that I acquired during those 20 years, move on to the vision board, look at every single picture, visualize what it represented to me. And even inhale, I would go like inhale the energy from that. And I would read all the statements around that. Then when I was done, I would lie down on the floor, I would close my eyes, and I would visualize myself on stage, giving speeches, inspiring people, helping people, doing all those amazing things. And not just being on stage, but it's literally every single step of the way of all right, I wake up, I get out of bed, I take a shower, I get ready, I drive to the airport, I take the plane, I fly to the destination, I take the taxi, I go to, wherever the speech is taking place. And it's I get ready, I go on stage, I perform, I do it. I want every single step of the way. And I would do that. And then after that, I would take a few hours and I would literally stand around in my apartment visualizing an audience in front of me even though I'm just staring at the wall. And I would give speeches, like fully improvised speeches on whatever came to mind. And I would do that for 4 hours every single day for months. And the reason why I eventually stopped was not because I stopped believing, was not because the dream died or anything like that. It's because I felt that if I keep doing this, if I keep trying to force this, if I go at this with such intensity, it's going to end up ruining the experience for me. What I mean by that is because I've always been a storyteller. Since I was young, I wanted to become an author. And, I've written hundreds of short stories and I've written 7 books and everything. But it's like I tried to force it so much and it was so important to me to succeed that it just ended up ruining my passion for writing. I still enjoy it. I'm gonna write again in the future. My fiction book series, I'm gonna finish it. There's still 5 books to write. I'm definitely gonna finish that, even if it's just for my own personal satisfaction, because honestly, really haven't sold a lot of them. And obviously, once this whole story is over, I'm gonna write the story of, everything, the cancer, the survival, the tumors, like everything. It's like, and I'm not quite at the point where I'm ready for that, but I know it's a big part of the journey. So I'm like, I don't want that same thing that happened with my writing, with my storytelling, to happen with this, with motivational speaking. So I'm like, okay, I can't force this. I need to release it. I sense that at some point in the future, it's going to come back and everything's going to work itself out. There's 20 years. I don't need to force this. I need to have faith. I need to let it happen. And it wasn't easy. It kind of felt like I was giving up. But now that I'm here in retrospect, I'm like, wow, that was the perfect move. I'm so glad I did that. Because if I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't have traveled. I probably wouldn't have met my wife. None of these things would have happened. But it's like now that I'm here, I've noticed it's almost been 10 months. In the last almost 10 months, there's been many instances where simply me being me, living this experience has inspired people. I'm like, wow, okay, that's not really what I was expecting when I'm like, I want to become the world's best motivational speaker. But that's exactly what I'm doing. Sharing my story, sharing like, hey, I have stage 4 cancer, incurable. There's only one treatment. My odds are survival in the neck, like of still being alive in 5 years is, 10%. In 10 years, they don't even have the stats for that. No one has ever survived stage 4. Oh, I have brain tumors on top of that. And it's just like, it keeps going and going. It's like, as I share that story, so many people are like, wow, it's so inspiring. And it's like, okay, to me, it's just, this is life. This is my story. This is who I am. I don't regret anything. But it's just, I've noticed this pattern of me sharing my experiences is inspiring other people. So already this process is beginning to happen. And it's a reminder, I don't need to force it. I know when the time is right, I'm going to write the book. I know when the time is right, I'm going to start giving speeches. I know when the time is right, everything's going to fall into place. So I don't need to force it. But it's just interesting to look back and realize like what started at this point, 3.5 years ago, almost, is now like kind of all falling into place. And it's just kind of really cool to look back and see that. So even though I'm not yet the world's best motivational speaker, I'm living the story that is going to allow that to happen. And because of my new perspective, it's like, yeah, I actually am the world's best motivational speaker. It's just the universe hasn't provided that yet. So I'm still living as that world's best motivational speaker. I'm still living as the, healthy version of myself. I'm still living as the millionaire version of myself. Even though I don't yet have all those things, it doesn't change the fact that I already am those versions of myself. So it's a really cool thing to be able to look back and realize like, I did the right thing. It's like, even back then when I still was my former version and I still had all those fears and insecurities and worries and all those things, it's like, I was still kind of already able to start leaning into that and surrender and feel what was right and not try to force things when it's not the time. So yeah, I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, and that's kind of the beauty of it. It's just really cool to be able to see everything coming together. So yeah, it's really fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to figuring out what the next thing that's going to happen is going to be.